Good everyone, my name is Alex and welcome to a new review. For today I have another budget phone from China called the OUKITEL U13. This phone costs about $130 at the time of this video, and this is the only thing that makes this a budget phone. Aside from the price, there is nothing budget about this phone. The phone is made out of metal and glass, and it's very difficult to say that this is a phone that costs only $130. It looks just as good as a OnePlus 3T, and size-wise, even though we have a 5.5-inch screen, it's actually smaller than other devices with the same screen size. For specs, we have a MediaTek 6753 CPU. This is an Octa core CPU. We also have 3 gigs of RAM, 64 gigs of internal storage, and the phone is running Android 6.0.1. On top of that, we have a 5.5-inch screen with a 1080p resolution and a fingerprint scanner. As I mentioned before, the back of the phone is made out of metal. However, we do have some antennas at the bottom and on top, but this is very similar to what you would find on a OnePlus 3T. Aside from that, you're gonna find the 16 megapixel camera, and they say that this camera has optical image stabilization. We also have the flash and the fingerprint scanner. The fingerprint scanner is accurate 95% of the time, but it is a bit slow, so not as fast as some flagship devices that we've seen on the channel here. Aside from that, the fingerprint scanner can actually be used to switch in between pictures or take pictures or anything like that, so something that we've seen on the Google Pixel. The sides of the phone are also made out of metal, and we have some nice edges that makes the phone easier to actually hold. So on the right hand side we have the power button and the volume keys, and of course these ones are also made out of metal. On top of the phone we have the 3.5mm audio jack, and the sound coming out of the audio jack is just average, so nothing special about the sound. And next to that we have an IR blaster. I was quite happy to see that we actually have an IR blaster on such a cheap device. However, I did try to set up the IR blaster so I can control my TV, and I wasn't actually able to. Maybe it's my TV and the model wasn't supported, but at this time I can't say if the IR blaster actually works or not. And moving to the other side of the phone, there we have the SIM card tray. So you can either install 2 SIM cards or a SIM card and an SD card. And since we have Android 6.0.1 running on this device, you can easily install an SD card as internal storage. As for the internal storage, out of that 64 gigs of internal storage that comes with the phone, we actually have about 55 free, but the speeds that I got for the internal storage are very good. And lastly, all the way at the bottom of the phone, we have what looks to be like 2 speakers. However, we only have 1 speaker. We also have the micro USB charging port and the microphone. Even though the speaker gets quite loud, the sound is a bit distorted at the maximum volume. This phone also supports OTG, so you can plug in any USB stick and the phone will be able to read whatever you have on that USB stick. But we don't have fast charging, so it takes quite a long time to actually charge the phone. So be prepared to leave the phone in the charger for about 3 hours to fully charge it. And since charging is related to the battery, inside this phone we have a 3000 mAh battery. However, the battery life that I got from this phone, it's not the greatest, so I was only able to get about 2 hours and a half of screen on time and about 12 hours in total. So not the absolute best battery life on this phone. On the front, starting at the top, we have the 13 megapixel front-facing camera. We also have a speaker, a couple of sensors, and an LED notification light. As for the front-facing camera, whenever you take pictures with good light, the pictures do turn out quite nice. However, if you take pictures in low light, they don't turn out that great. And the pictures that you've just seen or taken with this phone. The 5.5-inch screen used for this device has a resolution of 1080p. The viewing angles are rather good and the colors are nice and vibrant. However, this screen has more glare than usual. So whenever you take this phone and there is a lot of light, there is a lot of glare and reflection on the screen. As for the screen sensitivity, I didn't have any issues with typing or playing games, and you can basically touch the screen in 5 places and the screen will register. And on top of that, we have some type of scratch resistant glass, and of course, like most devices, I try to scratch this phone and it doesn't seem to get scratched, so that's a good thing. And moving all the way at the bottom of the screen, we actually have on-screen buttons, and the good thing about those on-screen buttons is the fact that you can actually move them around, a feature that you don't see for a lot of phones. Performance-wise, even though the phone doesn't get the absolute highest scores on the Antutu Benchmark and the Geekbench 4, it does do very good with most apps and games. So for example, if you use Chrome, scrolling up, scrolling down, zooming in, zooming out works very good. If you plan on watching YouTube videos, the maximum resolution is 1080p and all the videos go very smooth, and you can even game with this phone without any issues. And on top of that, multitasking also works really good, so you can keep a whole bunch of apps running in the background and the phone is not gonna close them. Even though the phone is quite cheap, the GPS unit inside it works better than the GPS units we've seen on more expensive devices, so it only takes a couple of seconds for the phone to actually connect to the satellites, and once it's connected it doesn't seem to get disconnected, and of course using Google Maps also works very good. Connectivity wise, the phone can connect to the 4G networks, but we only have access to the 2.4 GHz Wi-Fi networks. The speeds that I got over Wi-Fi are not the absolute best, however the speeds that I got over the 4G networks are quite good. Like most phones from China, this phone is running Android 6.0.1, and we also have Aukitel's own skin on top of it. Me personally, I'm not a big fan of it, and I think that it slows down the phone a bit, and I would prefer to see something like Nova Launcher or the Google Launcher installed on this phone for a better experience. For features, we do have a whole bunch of features available, and some of them aren't that bad. For example, we have the double tap to wake up the screen, and that's a very useful thing. And we also have those features for the fingerprint scanner, something that I haven't actually seen for too many phones. As for the settings app, it does look closer to stock Android, however we do have some added features in there. Some of them I didn't find that useful, so we have a lot of gestures available, like drawing letters on the screen and so on, but I don't find those ever useful. Aside from that, we have the regular settings app and the regular languages available for a lot of these Chinese devices, so yeah, definitely a lot of languages available on this phone. And moving to the back of the phone once again, here we have a 13 megapixel camera interpolated to 16 megapixels, and they say that this phone has optical image stabilization. Personally, I couldn't tell you the difference because with some phones you actually notice that, but with this one I couldn't tell you if it has optical image stabilization or if it doesn't. I haven't found any improvements. The camera app is the same MediaTek camera app that we've seen in the past, so realistically we don't have any options, and the camera app it's a bit slow. Mostly whenever you're taking pictures in the HDR mode, well, be prepared to actually hold your hands very steady because it's gonna take a while to actually take a picture. As for picture quality, if you take pictures in good light, the pictures do turn out nice and decent. If you take pictures in low light conditions, well, they don't turn out that great. But if you do use the HDR mode and you can actually hold your hands very steady, the pictures do turn out okay-ish, but not absolutely amazing. So the camera, it's average and there is nothing really special about it. For sensors, it looks like they had to cut costs somewhere, so unfortunately we only have 3 sensors available. However, the ones that we have do seem to work pretty good. And it's time to conclude this video. So for the price, for $130, this phone offers a lot of value, probably the most value that I've seen from any budget smartphone from China. First of all, it looks really good, so it's on par with like the OnePlus 3T or the Umi Z or anything like that. So basically devices that cost like 2 or 3 times more. Performance wise, it does work very good. I wasn't happy with the battery life though. So that 3000 milliamp battery inside, well, it doesn't do that good, so it's below average. The cameras are average and everything else about the phone it's kind of average, but in a very nice looking package. Alright guys, hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did find it useful, press that like button, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.